You are listening to the In the Mouth of Dorkness podcast. Here are Brad, Lisa, Brian, and Darren.
Welcome to another edition of the It Modcast podcast. Joining me is Brian Young, the Turtle Dork.
Happy Friday, folks.
And also joining us is Lisa Gullickson, yep, wife dork.
I'm feeling pretty small myself right now.
Oh, and also joining us is Brad Gullickson, mouth dork.
Code Kansas.
And I'm your host, Darren Smith, the Disco Dork. And welcome to the It Modcast podcast. Fistful Friday. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the weekend. Happy Friday, dorks. fellow dorks.
Marvel Friday.
That's right.
4th of July was great. Great cookouts.
Yes.
It was good. It was good.
Minimum
It was good.
mosquito bites.
Try to.
And
Can't avoid them all.
we finally got our post Infinity War picture, AntMan and Wasp.
Did not see that coming.
But
Wow.
I was gonna say we're in a good place, at least we're in a different place, maybe.
Yeah.
We're still,
Oh, I'm in a good place.
Okay.
I'm in a good
All
place.
right. Well, so you'll have to stick around and listen to our review cast for AntMan and Wasp. But in honor of AntMan and Wasp, this week's Fistful is a Fistful of Tiny.
Yeah.
So, Brian, I'm very curious as to you and Lisa's Fistful, because I know that you both can be very clever when it comes to your picks.
Oh God! Don't
Thank you.
tease.
You do?
We discussed before you hit record that mine and Brian's our fistfuls are garbage.
But you are really self-depreciating, Lisa. And
now
you
this
say
is for reals this time. All of those other times I said I was a piece of shit.
Right.
I was lying, and today I am a teeny weeny tiny piece of shit. The kind of piece of shit that, like, when you drop it, you're disappointed in yourself.
Are you small? Are you smaller or the same size as the poop emoji?
As small and less character, frankly.
Oh, all right.
Just like a perfect sphere. You know, like you're
poop
just
sphere.
like, how did I even make that? A little tiny poop sphere.
All right, now I'm extremely curious to hear number 5. But I got to get to Brian's first. Brian, hurry up and tell me your number 5 so I can see what this poop sphere's got.
It's obvious, man.
What is it?
Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Love that movie, though.
Yeah.
It's a great
Okay.
movie.
All right, talk about it.
Rick Moranis.
Mm-hmm.
It came out, Jesus, 80s? I can't remember. I saw it in
90s,
the...
I feel like you could have Googled this.
Yeah, I could.
We're
prepared.
really
Not prepared.
phoning it in.
not prepared.
Fucking
But
slacking.
Rick Moranis, his kids get shrunk by...
Himself. Rick Moranis, he's an inventor.
He's an inventor. He has a device.
Just let Lisa do your number 5 because
Well,
you don't know shit about this movie.
No, I enjoy this back and forth. I'm filling in the
I
blanks.
don't think Brian did.
Honey, I Shrunk the Kids was 1989.
Oh, you're right on the
very
cusp.
good.
On the cusp.
Very
Okay.
good.
All right.
So yeah, that movie was great. The kids get stuck in the backyard. They get
And stuck
dropped
in a bowl of cereal?
bowl in the cereal. They're in the attic. They get swept up.
Do they fall in the toilet bowl?
I don't
remember.
No.
But they get swept up, put in the trash, go in the backyard, and they have to find their way back in the house. They run into ants. There's a giant cookie. One of the kids almost get ate in a bowl of cereal. I love a lot of the practical effects in that movie. It was really, really fun to see.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's my
At
number.
Disney World, didn't they have one of those interactive 3D movie experiences?
Ooh.
I think that they did. I'm having like a flashback.
I've never been to Disney World, only Disneyland.
Oh, your life's sad.
That's
Damn.
the tiny Disney.
But I feel like there was, and you wore the like paper 3D glasses with the like the red and the blue.
And there was like a giant ant.
I'm sure. I can't remember.
I loved Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, but it's been forever, and I miss
Yeah.
Rick Moranis.
Yeah.
Me too.
He's-
He's a country singer now.
He's officially
What?
retired, I think, from acting. not
He's
acting
coming
anymore.
back for that Netflix documentary that Scorsese is putting together about SCTV.
I thought it was gonna be
Well,
about Rick
yeah,
Moranis' life. Like
No.
that's you had a dope ass life if Martin Scorsese is directing your documentary about your life.
What were they rumored that he was trying to come back, or they were trying to lure him back to
Reboot? Little-
Spaceballs?
No,
No,
too?
Ghostbusters.
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 That's
and
right.
they
That's
couldn't
right.
make
He's
it
trying to be a
happen.
cameo. in that.
You fucking right. All
I
right.
can't wait until they come up with the AntMan drinking game. Every time Lisa sings, take a drink.
Keep busted.
Slosh. All right. Wife Dork.
What?
What's your number 5 poop sphere?
Here, I'm about to drop it. I decided to go with a classic and a favorite, Fantastic Voyage from
All right.
1966.
I can't be mad. We got to see this at the Alamo Draft
We
House.
did, and like to me, I just thought it was like a visually stunning feature. And you think about like when you think of space movies or inner space movies where they're traveling to these different worlds. Nowadays, you're like, well, of course that's going to be CG, and you're going to use a green screen, and well, of course they use green screen in Fantastic Voyage. But this idea of using computers to create a virtual world that the actors can then exist in.
Right.
But with this movie, they built the sets. They built the inner workings of the human body, and the actors interact with these dreamlike settings, and they're beautiful.
It's a gorgeous movie.
It's a gorgeous movie.
Yep.
And just the scene where they're shrinking the ship.
Oh, yeah.
And it takes so much time, and it is so stressful, and just tremendous the way that they create this suspense. And then, throughout the film, that you just feel that ticking clock of like, oh my God, they're going to go back to regular size, and they're going to explode this poor scientist politician. I can't
Yeah.
remember what the guy on the thing he did. But yeah, so it's a great movie
It
and
is.
amazing on the big screen.
Yeah.
And a totally obvious choice. Totally obvious.
Good one, though. Sometimes the obvious are good. You're like, well, Benedict Cumberbatch is the obvious choice for Doctor Strange, but damn it, he's a great Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
I don't need no Joaquin Phoenix.
Exactly.
Oh, all right.
I would watch the shit out of that movie,
so
though.
would I.
Joaquin Phoenix as
would
Doctor
too.
Strange.
All right. Great pick. Thank you, Alamo Draft House, for having that being screened. It's a treat being able to see that on the big screen. Brad, your number 5. You don't have poop spheres, right?
No, I think what I've got is Anaconda malt liquor make you go, ooh!
God damn. Oh, man.
Yeah, it gives you a little Richard. Little Dick. Black Dynamite, 2009.
Great
A
pick.
film that we talk about a lot. But if we're talking Fistful of Tiny Things, you got to think about Richard Nixon's diabolical plan to poison the African-American people of Los Angeles using malt liquor, Anaconda malt liquor, to shrink penises. And damn you, Nixon. Thank God we've got Michael Jai White as Black Dynamite, or actually Ferrante Jones as Black Dynamite on the case. I wanted to get like a tiny dick into the top 5 fistful. I almost, Lisa and I were talking about it in the car, and Lisa's actually the one who reminded me of this moment in Black Dynamite.
I'm so generous.
And when I was like, okay, part of me is like, the tiny dick from the Golden State Killer and the real life situation that I learned in criminology. No, that's a dark tiny dick. But we should always keep mentioning how the Golden State Killer had a tiny dick.
Yep.
I think that's
Tell all
important.
of your friends.
Tell all your friends. But I think like my favorite tiny dick is the tiny dick conspiracy of Black Dynamite.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there you go. I've
Not
talked about it now.
Deadpool's tiny child dick.
No, I don't need
Little
no.
BB
man,
dick.
that's a great one.
No child dicks. in my
I would
list.
put that on my list if I wasn't going for a theme. I'm going.
Are you doing tiny dicks?
No, I'm doing
A
all.
fistful of tiny dicks.
Well, we all know that Brian's got the fistful of D's with his digital.
That was a
copies.
bag of D's. A sloppy bag of D's.
Yeah, and they don't know that inside
Oh,
joke.
that lost episode.
So spoilers. Brian has a tiny bag of D's.
Bag of tiny D's.
A bag of tiny D's.
Digital tiny D's.
Digital D's.
Yeah,
Digital D's.
Yeah. Technology, folks.
Copies of D's.
I apologize that you have no frame of reference for anything that we're talking about right now. And to make up for that, I'm just going to go into my number 5 of Tiny, and that is Tiny Lister Jr. as Winston and Jackie Brown.
Not No Holds Barred.
I'm not going for the obvious.
Not the convict from Dark Knight?
I'm not going for the obvious.
Not the president in The Fifth Element?
I'm not going for the obvious. And this is my number 5. President for Fifth Element is number 4, if we must know.
Oh.
By the way, I'm doing a whole fist. My whole fistful is all Tiny Lister Jr., by the way.
That's awesome.
So, spoiler alert. But anyway, before we get to my number 4, my number 5 is Tiny Lister Jr. as Winston and Jackie Brown. He is Max Cherry's bail bonds assistant, and it's a small role, and it doesn't require Tiny Lister Jr., which normally he's in a movie to be imposing. He's a lot of times cast for his physical presence, but in this one, his physical presence does make sense for that character. He is a bail bondsman, and so his line of work would have him go and be around some potentially dangerous people. So you do want a guy of that size on your team. But his nature is a lot different than, something like No Holds Barred, like you mentioned, the character of Zeus Brian. He's not a loud guy. He's quiet spoken, but he and Max, you get a sense that they have a real genuine and good working relationship. And it's just a cool that movie is filled with character roles that are filled with interesting and fun character actors, whether you're talking about Michael Keaton popping up for a little bit in the film as the ATF agent, or Tiny Lister as Winston, or Chris Tucker as not Odell, that's what is it? Beaumont as Beaumont. Yeah. So all these little small parts in this movie that are filled with fun character actors, and Tiny Lister Jr. also qualifies as well. So that's my number 5 in my Fistful of Tiny. Brian, your number 4 in your Fistful of Tiny.
So my number 4 is a movie that you have to say his name 3 times for him to come out, which is Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
There's a couple of different Tiny. I mean, first he's in that model, the model of the city, and he's tiny in there, and he's got his little brothel when you see him, and he has the thorns out when Alec Baldwin picks him up.
Love that.
Yeah, that's a great scene. And then of course when his head shrinks at the end, when he tries to dupe that guy and get a
witch doctor.
Yeah, then he tries to get like a higher number so he can get called sooner. So I love Beetlejuice. This movie came out, I believe, 1987. I saw this in the theater, loved it. Of course, Michael Keaton. What's his name? The director, Tim Burton. Oh my God. Tim Burton. Sorry, I'm losing it. But I absolutely love. I mean, you definitely see early in his career, right before Batman, you see a lot of his visual style and his techniques that Tim Burton uses, and it's just one of Keaton's. I mean, Keaton was just on fire in the late '80s, early '90s, just doing his thing, and I absolutely love Beetlejuice. So that's my number 4.
Wife Dork.
Yes.
Your number 4 in your Fistful of Tiny stuff.
My number 4 is a teeny tiny weapon. It is the noisy cricket from the Men in Black film.
Good.
Great pick.
When what is that character's name?
Jay
receives that gun. He thinks that he's getting the short end of the boomstick, but when in use, that noisy cricket does a lot of damage.
Yes.
packs a punch.
Packs a punch. A lot of, what is it called? Recoil.
Yeah.
Recoils Will Smith right into that pile of trash bags. Like it's on the corner, every street corner.
Mm-hmm.
When you're shooting at aliens.
We are fans of Men in Black here at the ItModcast.
That we are.
First
That is a movie that is still awesome. Am I right?
First one, yeah.
Yeah. What are you saying? That the third one?
Don't.
Even with the time travel element?
Don't forget about something in the future, Darren. You need to start promoting things.
The reboot.
Oh yeah.
The reboot next summer.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm actually looking forward to that.
Tessa Thompson, Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah. Especially if Chris Hemsworth is going to be funny, Chris Hemsworth, which he's a freaking genius comedic actor.
My God. Somebody needs to make me a GIF of all of the Chris Hemsworth in that Hotel Royale. What is it called?
Oh, yeah. Bad Times at the El Royale.
Oh,
yeah. Oh, my God. All of the Hemsworth in that is just so yummy.
I can dig it. All right. Great pick.
Nice.
B, your number 4?
My number 4 is another It Mod classic moment from this podcast. We're talking Tiny Sam Jackson in 1408.
I knew somebody
Next to
was
the
on.
eggs.
I knew somebody was on.
He's right there by the shelf of eggs inside the refrigerator of John Cusack's haunted hotel room in 1408. He's Tiny Sam Jackson.
And that's a Stephen King.
Yeah, it's based on a short story. I think the short story appears in his collection. Everything is eventual.
It just seems so. Is this supposed to be scary? Is it a scary movie?
It's supposed to be.
Because
But then there's Tiny Sam Jackson.
It just seems so absurd to have a tiny person in that is supposed to be a scary movie.
Yeah, but he's somehow when he opens the door, Sam Jackson represents like the person who's kept all the people from being killed by this haunted hotel room, right? But for some reason, he's able to break through the spell of the spirit inside the refrigerator, and that's Sam Jackson. Like, I told you this was going to go down. You know, you don't want to.
Interesting.
You
Okay.
don't want this to happen.
All right.
I've been eating your eggs in here.
Is it worth watching?
No.
Kasha? Oh, it's not.
I know.
Okay.
I mean, it's worth watching for that moment when you open the refrigerator and then there's Tiny Sam Jackson in there. But what I'll tell you is when Lisa and I revisited 1408, my memory of that sequence was Tiny Sam Jackson hanging out by like milk and eggs. Actually, when he opens the fridge,
He's just in an office.
He's just in a tiny room within. Yeah, his office is in the refrigerator. So it's not as silly as I remembered it when we last talked about it on this podcast.
I keep thinking it's like he's like right by the ice tray.
Like my memory of it is like Sam Jackson's right next to the eggs and his legs are dangling off the fridge shelf. But sadly, that's not actually the case.
Interesting.
We have to talk about something else. Seriously, like I have a migraine. My head hurts so bad right now.
Yeah.
My face hurts. All right, wait.
I didn't want to start with that because I knew it would destroy Darren and the 1408 tiny fridge moment.
Stop. I had that moment when I was quiet a few seconds ago. Like I had to go to like a dark place to think about something really awful, so I won't laugh, so I can block out this Sam Jackson. Okay,
Someone needs to do some fan art of that. Oh, like every couple of months, I'm going to bring up Tiny Sam Jackson in 1408 because of what it does to this guy over here.
Why, like the fan art for that? Like, why would you try?
I'm telling you, it's like Gallery 1988. I want his legs off the side of the fridge, and I want him to be—he's the size of an egg, or his torso's the size of an egg.
You know what's funny? They have those fridges now where you can see like if you're away. It has a camera in it, so you can go on your phone into the app and see, oh shit, I'm out of eggs.
Right. Or there's a rat inside.
Yeah.
Or there's a rat inside. Or there's a Tiny Sam Jackson inside. Oh shit. Honey, can you see if we need to get some eggs before we go home? What the fuck? What the fuck? Look, baby, look at this. Oh my God, is that Sam Jackson? Wait, is that the fridge?
I've had enough of these fucking eggs in my refrigerator.
All right. All right. My number 4.
Sounded better in my head.
Sounded great. My number 4 is Tiny Lister as the inmate in The Dark Knight. Not specifically just for his performance, but I mean, he's in that scene. I really like that scene. I like his performance in the scene, but also like the supporting characters' performances in that scene. Like when he makes the decision to not detonate the bomb, and he walks back over to the other inmates. There are those people that crowd around him to like offer him support, and I don't know, like that small gesture really, for me, it accentuated that decision he made for the rest of the people on that ship and to save the other lives. And again, this is more akin to his role in Jackie Brown, where it's a more understated performance. Yes, he is cast because he's physically imposing, and if you have an inmate, you do want to, especially for this scene, you know, the idea is, okay, we have this inmate who looks like a killer, so obviously he's not going to give a shit about these people on this other boat. So when we put this detonator in his hand, you know, the audience is supposed to go, oh shit, we know Zeus is gonna freaking blow these people up. He's a mean dude. But Christopher Nolan subverts expectations with the character choice in that scene. So, but anyway, for him to be able to, it's what we talked about on our review cast for Sicario, and Lisa mentioned, she remarked that there was an actor in that film, the young guy, and how she felt like the director failed to pull a performance out of him, and had nothing to do with his talent or his lack of any talent or anything like that. And I feel like the same thing with Tiny Lister, because he can be in movies, and he's done a lot of like direct-to-video movies and other movies that's come out in theaters where, his performance is really, he's struggling. But then you get him in front of a director who can coax something true out of an actor, and obviously the result is what you see in something like The Dark Knight, as far as Tiny Lister Jr. is concerned. So yeah, that's my number 4 and my Fistful of Tiny. Brian, your number 3.
So my number 3 is an animated film that deals with tiny, not people, but insects. A Bug's Life. Pixar's A Bug's Life.
Not ants?
No. Ants was Jesus.
That's
movie.
Christopher. That's
Woody
Nicolas
Allen.
Cage.
No, that's
No.
the one with Sylvester Stallone and Woody Allen.
Which
By
one?
It was DreamWorks. I think that was DreamWorks' first animated movie, or
Really?
one of them.
Yeah.
They
That came out around the same time, right?
They
Yeah,
tried.
yeah,
They tried
yeah.
to beat.
We never bring that up when we talk about the Armageddon and Deep Impact.
There was
and-
no battle there between
No.
ants and Bugs Life.
Damn.
Neither of them were that good. Boom, boom, boom.
Oh.
Whoa! I like
Okay.
the Bugs
Okay, continue,
Life.
sorry.
I mean, I haven't seen it in a while, but I think that is an underrated and a lost Pixar film that people don't really talk about much.
Correct.
But I think that.
Damn.
I mean, it's sandwiched between a Toy Story and Toy Story 2, which are pretty much
Really?
masterpieces. Yeah, 98 came out.
Bugs Life was the second Pixar.
Yeah, second Pixar film behind Toy Story. But it had a great voice cast, and it told a really interesting story. I think it kind of followed the Seven Samurai story
Yeah,
plot
a little bit.
But it's a movie I definitely want to go back and rewatch. But I think it's definitely a movie that is worth watching from what I can remember. I really enjoyed A Bug's Life. But again, it's just that lost Pixar film.
I
that
haven't
a
seen
lot of
it since
people-
'98.
Yeah, I've seen it since then.
I don't think I've ever seen it all the way through.
It's pretty good from what I remember. But I just wanted to give a shout out to A Bug's Life. 'Cause
All right.
People don't really talk about it much.
So that's your number 3. Wife Dork. Your number 3 is not Osmosis Jones?
It is not Osmosis Jones. I don't know what Osmosis Jones is.
Really? It's
That's
an
an
animated
animated
feature
movie.
when Chris Rock it's the inside of the body and your white blood cells and red blood cells and all this other stuff. And it's basically like,
Was that mixed with live action?
Yes, Bill Murray.
yeah.
Lisa would not like it
Oh,
because of the live action stuff.
gross.
It's been a while since. Okay.
Oh, now I'm traumatized.
Sorry.
Shatner's in it though. He's a voice.
Ooh,
Oh yeah, that's right.
that's fun.
So your number 3 is
I'm waffling. I'm going back and forth between a couple of terrible options. But I'm going to go with this because this is honestly, weirdly, the first thing that I thought of when we talked about doing a Fistful of Tiny. And I have no idea why. But it is a tiny friend that I would love to have, Ralph the Mouse in The Mouse and the Motorcycle. It was originally a book by Beverly Cleary, and then it was turned into like a ABC weekend movie.
animated. It was
No, it wasn't animated. It was live action. The one I'm thinking of. Directed by Ron Underwood of nothing. I think of other TV things, I'm sure. Oh, here he is. Oh! Fuck Your Face, director of Tremors and City Slickers and Heart and Souls and Mighty Joe
He's
Young.
made a bunch of movies.
He's made a bunch of movies.
Pretty good
He's made
movies.
Tremor, so
Yes,
he's good
but
for life
most
on
importantly, he made the ABC Kid Time film of The Mouse and the Motorcycle, starring Fred Savage and a little mouse puppet that zips around. So Beverly Cleary, as an author, she wrote the Ramona books, Henry and Ribsy, Henry Huggins, all of these, 15, which was a book I was not allowed to read when I was in elementary school because it had kissing and periods in it. It might not have had periods in it. I might have just confused it with Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, another book I was not allowed to read. But they were all very kind of realistic movies about the inner lives of kids. And then she also wrote The Mouse and the Motorcycle, which is about a little girl who has a friend that's a mouse who rides a motorcycle. It's an amazing book, super fun. I remember as a kid, I was very proud as a child that all of my friends were reading picture books and I was reading chapter books, and I was just zipping my way through. I loved Paddington Bear. I loved Beverly Cleary books, and I had a little crush on Henry Huggins. I was like, he sounds like a cute boy with a dog, and we would hang out and hold hands, and I could pet his dog. So yeah, but The Mouse and the Motorcycle, I remember watching it. Oh God, I wish I could remember because I can see the classroom. I guess this movie came out in, where's the year on this? How does IMDb work? It came out somewhere in between 1977 and 1995. I can't. Why?
Yeah, because they're giving you the date for the specials, not that actual screening.
Yeah, lame. But I remember watching it in elementary school in the classroom and just absolutely loving it. And I always loved the idea of having a little mouse friend, a little Disney princess communing with the animals kind of thing. We've already talked about that. We talked about that during Jurassic Park. How I just wanted animals to understand me and me to be able to interact with them. I also really liked Stuart Little as a book. I never saw the movie because I was like, it exists as a book. And I also really liked that Charlotte's Web.
I was trying to do that Snow White call that occurs in the Wreck-It Ralph 2 trailer, but I can't do it. Can you do that? You know, she's like, ha, 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 ha.
I don't know if it's like a specific melody. I don't know. I can't pull it right now.
What is it like, Brad?
I think that's about right. I think you got it.
Thank you.
I'm so glad I said that and not downsizing. That was my other choice. I really enjoyed downsizing. Everybody who sat near me at Fantastic Fest last year can eat a dick. Downsizing was a riot. I wish I was sitting next to Darren.
I love that.
I was sitting next to Darren, and Darren and I loved downsizing.
Oh my goodness.
Still haven't seen it.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, it's so fun.
I'm gonna watch it.
I love it. As much as I love looking at tiny things, I love looking at tiny things next to regular sized things.
All right, before I get another migraine, Brad, what's your number 3?
So naturally, I wanted to go with Inner Space, but we talk about it a lot.
Yeah.
So I went with another Joe Dante film, a one later on in his filmography. From 1998, a popular year. From Bug's Life, there was also Small Soldiers.
Oh, that was
Yeah, that's the film where they used missile technology to enhance the action figures of the day. Boy, Brad, it's late and I'm drunk. And Tommy Lee Jones plays the G.I. Joe-like character Chip Hazard, and his nemesis is played by Frank Langella. He plays Archer, the little alien monster thing. Yeah. But then when you learn after these toys take sentience that the monster people are actually pretty good, and the G.I. Joe guys are a bunch of jerks, and Chip Hazard's it's just no good to be around. Kirsten Dunst is the child involved, or one of the children involved, but really was all about the actors they got to portray the toys. Ernest Borgnine's Kip Killigan, Jim Brown is Butch Meathook, Bruce Stern is Link Static, George Kennedy is Brick Bazooka, Clint Walker is Nick Nitro, and on and on and on. Michael McKean is Insaniac Frankenstein. Or actually, I think he's Insaniac and Frankenstein? I'm not sure. Can't remember.
You know, when I can't say as a kid because
you were like 20 years old?
Probably in a late teen, probably. But I remember not liking that movie or not wanting to watch it because I didn't like the way the toys looked.
You're like, that's not my type of He-Man I'd play with.
Right. I just didn't like the design of the actual figures that were supposed to be animated. So, I protested that
I
movie.
remember watching that film and going, I want these toys. Wait a second. I can't go to Toys R Us and get them?
Didn't but they came out with...
Did they?
Yeah, they're...
I don't think that's true.
Are you serious?
I
want to say they did.
Oh, well, listeners, if you have Small Soldiers toys, send them my way because I want them.
I saw that in the theater. That was great. That was a lot of fun. And Phil Hartman was in it. I think it was his last movie before he died. Yeah.
Really?
They dedicated the movie to him at the end of it.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah.
All right, I might have to go back and rewatch it. I still don't like the look of the toys, but like that voice cast.
It's not the best Joe Dante movie. I mean, it's nowhere near as good as Inner
Whole-
Space. But Small Soldiers, it's it's solid.
Okay.
Solid.
All right. My number 3, my Fistful of Tiny lister is The Fifth Element, Brian, as you mentioned, where he plays the president. And so compared to the roles in my other two picks, The Dark Knight and Jackie Brown, this one, the tone of the film at the very least is more comedic. So his role comes across a little more comedic, but I mean, he's not playing a buffoonish or an aggressive guy. He's still dialing it back, and it is against type. He's not some type of gangster dude. He's not a bodyguard. I mean, he's the actual president, which is awesome in and of its own right. And I like this movie because like the oddness of casting Tiny Lister Jr. as the president, it totally fits within the universe that Luc Besson created for this movie. Because even still, like this is one of my favorite science fiction movies, if not just for Luc Besson's visual aesthetic alone and how different it is. For me personally, I can feel the influence of like French comics and stuff like that. And the movie just is in and of itself an entertaining movie. A great performance from Bruce Willis, Mila Jovovich's debut, and a really crazy and over the top performance from Chris Tucker, which I like a lot. So I have nothing bad to say about The Fifth Element. I love that movie. And Tiny Lister's his cameo, basically, because it doesn't have a lot to do. He has like maybe 3 scenes total in the film. But what he does there is enough to put a smile on my face every time he pops up. So that's my number 3. Brian, your number 2.
So my number 2 is a film that it makes me wish I had my own mini-me.
I do not want to meet that.
It's Austin Powers.
Okay.
What's The Spy Who Shagged Me?
Okay.
Yeah, Mini-Me.
Damn, Vern Troyer just passed like not too long ago, right?
He did.
Yeah.
Rest in peace.
Sorry. Yeah,
he did pass away recently.
Damn.
Yeah, man. His I don't know if that was his first film, but that's definitely the second Austin Powers movie is the one that really put his name out there on the map. And that movie was just funny, man. It's just, the Mini-Me, Dr. Evil, it was just hilarious. And it carried over into Goldmember and into the third film. And I don't know, it'd be kind of cool to have a mini.
Is Mini-Me not in the first one?
No.
Mm-mm.
No.
Really?
Yeah, he's in the second.
It's so long since I've watched those movies.
Same.
Yeah. I think I have no, I actually have the whole trilogy on Blu-ray. I need to go back and rewatch those. But yeah, Vern Troyer was great as Mini-Me.
Do you have any digital downloads?
I have digital downloads of the first and the third, but not the second. I need to get that one.
Gotta get that.
Yeah.
You just gotta rumble around in that sack of D's.
Sack of D's. There you go.
Lisa, you're number 2.
My number 2 is
Get your hand out of Brian's bag of D's. Give me your number 2.
my number 2 is actually a tie because it's 2 things on the same theme. We have learned from watching horror movies that people who have a fascination with things in miniature are creepy. We saw it most recently in the film Hereditary with the artist making those dioramas of her family and the horrible experiences that they're going through from
Quick side note: has anyone else still been thinking about that film?
Oh, yeah.
her. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The more I think about the movie, the higher it rises on my
It's sticky.
Same.
It's sticky.
Yeah.
I find myself thinking about it when I don't want to. At night, in
You
the
haven't seen
dark,
it yet?
as my eyes
Can
adjust.
we all go see it together?
No.
We should go see
I'm
it.
so hesitant. I just don't like scary movies.
Um,
Okay, I'll see it.
It's creepy and sad.
Yeah,
but
that's
I
what
wouldn't
everybody
say
keeps
that
saying.
it's scary. There's a
Yeah.
couple of jumpy jumps.
You
more
gotta
unsettling
watch
than
it
anything.
before
It's
the year's
unsettling.
out.
It is unsettling.
Yeah, but everybody says
We
it's
should go
not
see
a-
it, B.
All right.
You should video
I mean,
him.
I'll go
while-
see it. I'll go see it.
I want to watch him watch it.
I
Can
just,
can you record him at night?
Night vision on in the theater.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry, but yes, your pick.
So so it's a tie between Hereditary and Craig's Puppets and Being John Malkovich.
Oh.
That's not technically a horror movie, but that is a movie that creeped me the F out in high school when I'm like, John Cusack, he's so cute. I'm going to watch all his movies. What the fuck is this? And he creates the puppets that mirror life, and it's sad.
Okay. Good pick. Great pick.
And he's an unemployed puppeteer. Yeah. Like, that's sad. Because, what a successful puppeteer is? Self-employed. So even he won't hire him because he's so fucked up and spending too much time behind his file cabinet.
Oh, man.
Good pick.
Thank you.
All right, B, your number 2.
My number 2 is... just left my brain. I had it.
Oh, your number 2?
Yeah, I just started laughing so much that I forgot what my number 2 is.
Oh, that was Lisa's fault.
Oh, damn it.
Sometimes, don't worry about it, Brett. Sometimes I go days without a number 2. I just don't even let it bother me.
Okay. The problem is I switched this out at last minute. Okay, I found my number 2. We don't need to Bobby and Whitney this. We've got this. Batmite presents Batman's Strangest Cases. It's an episode from Batman Brave and the Bold, one of my favorite cartoon series ever. I know Bruce Timm's animated series is up on high in geeks' opinions, and for good reason, but do not dismiss Batman the Brave and the Bold. And Batmite is such a weird little character. He's from another dimension. In the cartoon series, he's voiced by Paul Rubens, Pee Wee Herman. And he's basically Batman's ultimate fan, but he's a total pest. He's Kathy Bates in Misery without the sledgehammering of the ankles.
The hobbling.
Syndrome.
Yeah, he's like Syndrome, a little less malevolent, but yeah. And in this particular episode of Batmite Presents, he shows the different versions of Batman to Batman. And he says, look, here's when you hung out with Scooby-Doo, and there's a specific Scooby-Doo and Batman episode. Look, here's the Japanese anime version of your life. And you get to watch an anime version of Batman.
Yeah.
And it's actually an adaptation of the Batman manga from the 60s after the Adam West show. Japan had this really crazy manga in which Batman didn't fight the Joker. He fought Lord Deathman.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's wonderful. And they animated it. And then the final episode, is like it's a really, I don't even know who, it's not Ren and Stimpy that they're referencing. It's sort of like an R. Crumb-like cartoon, and the artist that did it is blanking on me because I'm losing my mind in the course of this episode. But Batmite is my Tiny for Batman. He's Tiny Batman.
Right.
Tiny annoying Batman.
Nice.
With interdimensional powers.
All right.
Number 2
I want to
saved.
see that old school Batman manga.
Oh, yeah. I've got it somewhere.
All right. My number 2, like Lisa, because great minds think alike, or at least not so great minds steal from great minds. So my number 2 is a 3-way tie. And these are 3 roles that Tiny Lister Jr. would do all within a year of each other. His role as Cletus in Trespass came out in '92, but his role in Posse as Obobo and also in Meteor Man as Digit, both of those movies came out in '93. And so that's my pick for number 2. His role as Cletus in Trespass, his role as Obobo in Posse, and his role as Meteor Man as Digit. All of those films, similar size roles and similar type characters, a peripheral, a side supporting character that doesn't have a lot to do, but in his scenes he delivers, and his presence is felt in each of these films. And all 3 of these movies, I mean, Rap Dork will tell you different. Tim, Trespass is a modern classic. But I would just say all 3 of the films, Trespass, Posse, and Meteor Man,
Same level.
Yeah. But the interesting thing is, Meteor Man's directed by Robert Townsend. Posse was directed by, if I'm not mistaken, Mario Van Peebles.
Yeah.
But Walter Hill directed Trespass. But like the cast of those films are diverse cast, black cast. Trespass being the most diverse when you have Ice-T, William Sadler, Bill Paxton, Ice Cube, and Tiny Lister Jr. and everybody else. But for Meteor Man, it's a comic book movie.
Yeah.
And then it's not an original. I mean, it's an original comic book character. It's not a Marvel or DC character, but I mean, it's a comic book movie. It's a black superhero.
I need to watch that again. It's been a long time.
Yeah, it's okay. It has a lot of heart to it, and it has some really funny bits in it that I still find funny and entertaining.
I love the opening of Posse. You have Woody Strode thinking back to the past, and he's got the fire next to him.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to follow Woody Strode's character.
Yeah. But Posse has some great stuff in it too.
It's
It's an okay movie, but there's some great stuff
Yeah.
in it too. So yeah, that's
Billy Zane's so bad at it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
So bad.
Bad, good or bad?
No, bad.
I love Billy Zane. Demon Knight, The Phantom, Rock On. Posse, not so much.
But yeah, so that's my number 2. Brian, your number 1.
So my number 1 is a scene that I really, really enjoy. It gives me goosebumps, and it's just such a great inspirational scene to me.
When the troll got sucked into the fan in Cat's Eye?
No,
Oh.
This is Almost Famous when they sing "Tiny Dancer" on the bus.
In your mind, you also see a tiny dancer.
Absolutely.
See, I told you were going to be clever with your picks.
Yeah, I just
See?
I came up with that right before we recorded.
See?
But I guess that's clever. Yeah, you can say thank you. I appreciate that. But Almost Famous. Now that's a movie that it's still kind of foggy in my memory as far as like I think I've seen the whole film, bits and pieces of it, but that scene always sticks out to me, and I watch it a lot. I've seen it on YouTube. I've seen it whenever the movie comes on, and just that scene alone, it's just so inspirational when you see that band together singing that song "Tiny Dancer" and the way the music kicks in, and like the scene that he says, he's like, the kid tells him, he's like, I gotta go home, and Kate Hudson like does the whole face thing. It's like, you're already home. And it's like, oh, it's just so nice. So great.
All right. Wake up, motherfucker. Lisa, you are number 1, but also your number 1 pick.
My number 1 pick is from my all-time favorite movie. It is from Head, the scene in which the monkeys are cast in a commercial as dandruff. And they are on Victor Mature's head, and they get sucked into the vacuum.
Was that a Floby?
No. It was a vacuum cleaner.
Okay.
That would be awesome. But then, like in the scene, the vacuum would be full of Victor Mature's enormous hair.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Instead of an El Zumo.
That's right.
And a button and a big needle.
Button.
That movie's great. It's my favorite movie. I wanted to sing the dandruff song.
You should have.
Dandruff. But I forget the words.
Oh.
Ruff, ruff, ruff. Druff, druff, druff. The itchy and scratchy show. That's how it goes.
All right, thank you. That is the obvious answer, but I was not thinking that. I was expecting you to have somewhere like Fantastic Mr. Fox or some Wes Anderson like stop motion.
Yeah, that shit's tiny.
on there.
Yeah, you're right. You're not wrong.
Oh, okay. Brad, your number 1 is
No, you're not going to get it.
No.
What do you think it is?
I don't know.
That was another great tiny moment.
When the troll from Cat's Eye got sucked into the
Oh,
fan and she found his
I
little
hate that
his little
troll.
sword. Me too.
Just looking at that troll makes me want to punch it.
No, but then it's like all chopped up, like it looks like tomato.
Yeah. No.
And she finds his little dagger.
This is a Fistful of Tiny inspired by AntMan and the Wasp coming out. I love the first AntMan movie. What I really like about the AntMan movie is getting to see that concept of power visualized, and I think that Peyton Reed does a pretty darn good job in AntMan. But I'm not going to pick anything from that movie. I am picking AntMan, and I'm picking the moment that it's inspired by the Avengers cover of number 223. The artist of that was Ed Hannigan, and it's when Paul Rudd as Ant-Man jumps on Hawkeye and says, "Okay, Arrow guy, let's do this." And he gets on Hawkeye's arrow, and Hawkeye fires Ant-Man towards Iron Man.
Yeah.
And he gets inside the suit, and he becomes the conscience of Tony Stark and tears apart his Mark armor.
Yeah.
And I love that moment. I love what an homage it is to Avengers 223. That is also recreated in the cartoon series Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes. I'd recommend watching that.
Great show.
That's
show.
a great show, and an awesome tour through Marvel characters.
Yes.
And they do tremendous justice to all of those characters, from Cap and Iron Man, Thor to Black Panther,
Fantastic Four.
Yeah, there's a great Galactus arc in there. And the moment in Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes where Ant-Man gets on Hawkeye's arrow and is shot. He goes flying through the air, and he jumps off and punches. He grows and punches Baron Strucker right in the face.
Yeah.
It's a really awesomely directed moment. But yeah, that whole concept of Ant-Man riding Hawkeye's arrow.
Yeah.
It's my favorite Tiny moment.
All right. All right.
That troll from Cat's Eye. Ugh.
My number one in my Fistful of Tiny Lister Jr. is, of course, Debo.
Got it. I was about
from
to say.
Friday. It has to be.
Yeah.
If you've seen the film, then his role is infamous. He is the neighborhood bully in F. Gary Gray's cult classic hood comedy starring Ice Cube and Chris Tucker, a star-making role for Chris Tucker. A really low budget but simple film. It's one of those films in the spirit of independent cinema, like Clerks, where you have your one location. It's a simple premise. It's like a day in the life of these two guys or whatever. And the opening of the movie, Craig gets fired from his UPS-like job. They have him on surveillance, attempting to steal boxes. Supposedly, maybe he did, maybe he didn't. And so he's fired on his day off, and his buddy Smokey, who's played by Chris Tucker, who likes to partake in marijuana, he gets in with a neighborhood drug dealer and ends up owing him money. And so they have a few, literally, I mean, actually, Smokey has a couple of hours to come up with this money for Big Worm. And he drags Ice Cube in it. And so since that's his buddy, he's not going to let his buddy go down. So they frantically spend the next few hours trying to figure out what they're going to do about this threat of, you better have my money or I'm coming back. And so basically that's it. But through that, it's just, F. Gary Gray has Ice Cube character go through there's a story there about, being a man. What does it mean to actually be a man? And what does it mean to be a man in this world where, nowadays when there are, disagreements or beefs or whatever, you solve your problem with a gun. You just go drive by and take a life. Whereas before you hash it out like a man. You either talk to the person or confront them, and if it comes to fisticuffs, then you use your hands and you fight like a man, and instead of being a coward and ending a life. And so that's in there too, and what it means to have that type of mentality in South Central Los Angeles. But Debo's presence in the movie, he's like Jaws. He's like Jason. Like when people hear his bike squeaking down the street, the actual musical cue is dun, dun, and it's something akin to the Jaws score. And he comes and everyone freezes up and
how'd you change?
Yeah, everything changes when Debo comes around, and he makes a perfectly good foil for Smokey and Craig in this movie. But it's Tiny Lister Jr. playing to that character type of the big guy, the big South Central Los Angeles like gangbanger ex-convict guy you just don't want to mess with. But he does it so well that. It's got to be his number one if we're going to have a fistful of this man's work. It's the most memorable role, and he would go on like to do the Friday sequel, and the role would change. And I mean, it doesn't change, but they don't really do too much with it. But in the first film, it's a classic, so that has to be my number one. I will say this: I did not start out doing a fistful of tiny lister. I actually have a fistful. So just to give the listeners a bonus, I'm going to go real quick.
He's always cheating.
I am. My number 5 was Fantastic Voyage. My number 4 was The War of the Worlds and the human bacteria that ultimately ended up being the demise of the aliens.
Yeah.
The Last Jedi for the Dreadnought ship and how it dwarfed all of the previous ships that we'd seen in the franchise, and how they had that one huge Dreadnought ship that, you know, the Star Destroyers that next to it were like small spaceships next to that Dreadnought. So that was my number 3. My number 2 was The End of the Abyss, when the giant alien ship comes up and the previously huge structure, platform, and ship that they were on becomes like this real small thing on the body of this giant surface. And then my number 1 was the moment from Ant-Man where he versus the Falcon, when you see like that he actually took down an Avenger, and so that was my number 1. So yeah, that's my. But then I thought I'm gonna do all Tiny Lister Junior.
So originally I had The Thing as my number 2 because just a microism. Why am I not being able to say that now?
A microorganism, microscopic organism?
Microorganism. God damn, this has been a long night. Fuck off. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I thought of other movies too.
Yeah.
I thought of The Witches.
Yes, that's a good one.
The Doozers from Fraggles.
The Doozers.
Bible Goes West. Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah.
Fern Gully. Tinkerbell and Hook. Deadpool's Tiny Hands.
Oh man.
Night at the Museum. The Shrunken Head from Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban.
Oh yeah. B, what do you got for alternates? The listeners want to know.
Little Shop of Horror.
Oh, that's a good one.
Microorganism.
The plant.
Oh, when the bulb.
It's little.
Audrey was tiny. Okay. That's it?
Pretty regular size for a plant.
All right, listeners. You're lucky to get that from them.
Microorganism.
Thank you all for listening. Hit us up on social media at ItModcast and let us know what your top 5, your fistful of tiny are. Brian can be found at The Turtle Dork on Twitter, at The Turtle Dork 1 on Instagram, and at Brian William Young on Facebook. And guess what? Sidewalk Siren is at Sidewalk Siren and at Bake Dork on Twitter and Instagram. She's also at Sidewalk Siren on Letterboxd. Brad Gullickson is at Mouth Dork on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Letterboxd, and Untapped. And I'm Darren Smith on all social medias as the Disco Dork. That's going to do it for us. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. There's a lot to see out in the movie theaters this weekend.
Oh my God.
You can
Microorganisms.
see microorganisms. You can go see Ant-Man and the Wasp. You can go see Sorry to Bother You. You can go see The Purge, the first Purge. And there's some stuff that's been out for the past couple of weeks that if you haven't seen, it's worth seeing in a movie theater. So do yourself a favor. Stay cool because it's hot out. Stay safe and go watch some movies. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thank you all for listening. And until next time.
Microorganism.